Let's see. What do we got going on? Shit. Oh, I know. There we go. That should do it. Boom. Let's see. I don't care about that anymore. You. What's that tweet? What up? What's happening? You can hear me, right? Just float in the chat if you can hear me. I was having some audio issues, which is why I started late. Cool. Thank you, sir. Let some more people come in. As you can see, it's going to be about training. Maybe there'll be some talk of stuff that violates community guidelines. Who knows? But for now, I kind of wanted to try and make it seem like I had a actual plan. Oh, yeah, Wilma. I'm practicing a little Chinese. Helps to have a cute instructor. Oh, what's up? Looks like I got 4 people watching. Y'all need to get in the chat and say what's up to your boy. Do I feel like HIT style training with a bit more volume is the best for assisted lifters? Yeah, we're going to get into that. I'm going to talk a little bit about assisted and non assisted training with heavy duty and high intensity training because I was doing it back in the day. You may remember on bodybuilding.com where I used to always talk about, I called it, what did I call it? Blood force trauma. It was basically just kind of like my spin on blood volume training with high intensity training type of model to it. And of course, all the know it alls were trying to rip it apart and just be like, oh, fuck that, that's just this bullshit, just that. Yeah. I'm like, go fucking goat then. Um, we're going to talk about all of that stuff, man. And once I get a few more people in, when people act as though they came to actually see moi and I'm just doing this back and forth thing because I got a dual monitor set up and space is limited. I was thinking about mounting it over, but I didn't want to be doing this all day, so I just got it mounted on the side, so that way I could see what I'm presenting here and keep on the camera. That is true. That was kind of like I remember reading an article. I think it was in Muscular Development where they were talking about that, and Mike Mincer was kind of just like he was so militant about, oh, you train this way and this and that and the third, and then like when people were um, questioning him on it, quizzing him on it, he was kind of like, well, whatever, and all this other stuff. And, there was a lot of inconsistencies. Like, you know, even though he was talking about like doing single sets or some other weird thing, um, he was kind of always just kind of like, yeah, he would do like a bunch of warm ups, and then people would be like, that seems a little off or whatever. And I mean, like anybody in this game, really, there's always some sort of scrutiny where people are just like, oh no, you're not doing this right or that right or whatever, and it happens. So I will sip my coffee, and I got a little alone time. It's just that I could have streamed Friday. I could have streamed yesterday. It's just that when the wife's around and she gets weird when I do stuff, and I'm like, why does it even matter to you? Like, I'm just like streaming. I'm talking to my friends online. Um, go in a room, make TikTok videos for all I care. Like, like why has it got to be? But happy wife, end your life, something like that. I'm gonna spam a couple of more Discord servers and see if anybody cares at all about training. We're talking about training. I have to really figure out. Boom. I'm not watching House of Dragon. I'm done with the whole fantasy nonsense. Yeah. Well, surprisingly enough, half the time I'm doing something nerdy on computer. To be honest, one of my favorite things to do for one of my favorite things to do is I'm on my computer. I have Raspberry Pi projects that I play with on the weekends. If I'm not gaming, I'm setting up Kubernetes containers or uh, virtual machines and running. Can't argue that. Um, but yeah, I don't. I think there's more or less just like there's certain things that we mutually want to watch that I'll just chill and we'll watch together, and then there's things where it's kind of like, she wants to watch something, she could watch something. I'm not paying attention because I'm trying to figure out Terminal. I can care less. But yeah. I mean, this looks like it's as good as it's gonna get, so I'm just gonna jump right in and yeah. Okay. Somebody noticed. Oh no. Appreciate the shout out, my friend. Let me uh, spam a couple of other spots. may actually change my thumbnail too when that pops up. Oh, shit. Let's see. What time is it? Where am I at? Okay. There's my control panel. You know what? People join in, they join in. What's happening to those of you that are watching? Um, Today, not so community guideline violating. It's going to be, we're going to talk about training. I got the training intel screen up. As you can see, I've been sharpening up my PowerPoint skills, something I could have done while I worked at Microsoft, but I don't know if that would have helped my career anyway, because I don't party like those assholes. But anyway, fuck it. Got the training intel. We're going to talk about progressive overload, blood volume training, heavy duty or high intensity training, made popular by Mike Mentzer, Dorian Yates. Um, if you've been on the forums back in the early 2000s, you may have heard dog crap. We're going to talk about dog crap today, German volume training, all that fun stuff. What are these? How do they apply to natty versus enhanced athletes? Full disclosure, if you don't know, of course you do. That's why you're here. I am an enhanced athlete. I am on 3RT, testosterone replacement therapy. It is something that is needed. I've had paperwork to prove that for years, and doctors are just like, oh, well, let's do this, let's do that, because they're on this anti-drug seeking crusade, which is bullshit, you know. But then again, we have a opiate crisis, so go figure. Basically, um, in my studies and through college, because I went to college for exercise physiology, and a lot of my friends were enhanced athletes, football, track, wrestling team, hockey, whatever. Um, it just sparked my fascination, and also early 80s to mid 90s, a lot of bodybuilding magazines like Flex, Muscle Fitness, still Muscular Development, because they haven't changed much. Muscle Mag International, I don't even think they're still in print anymore, but because I know Robert Kennedy passed away a long time ago. A lot of those publications, even Muscle Media 2000, they used to have um, they used to have articles about anabolics, and they were very open about it. And of course, they would have disclaimers. It's just like, hey, talk to a doctor. These are professional athletes. They have doctors that work with them. This isn't something that normal people should do. But of course, normal people do because we're assholes. Basically, um, the training intel today is just more or less going over um, proper training, proper techniques, how to get through plateaus, things like that. So we got progressive overload on there, blood volume training. Like I said, Mike Mentz's heavy duty or high intensity training, and German volume. We can go over all these, how they measure up if you're enhanced or natural, and also like frequency, different types of splits. Talk about bro splits, talk about push pull legs, talk about full body workouts, things of that nature. Depletion workouts, which if you ever decide to compete or have competed before or know someone that competes, they know depletion workouts all too well, and they suck. They could be fun, but they are terrible. Let's move on. So we got here rules of engagement. Basically, you get into a spot to where I'm not covering up everything. Now we got Judy over here doing lunges, nice bumper plates, probably in a CrossFit box. Who knows? So rules of engagement. These are all different training principles within training models that you can implement. So they're not necessarily routines in themselves. They're just basically how you could expand on your current routine and actually make things a little better as far as like if you get to a sticking point, plateaus, that sort of thing. This helps. And first one we're going to talk about is superset. Then we're going to talk about giant sets. Then we're going to talk about time under tension, high reps, reps past failure, and drop sets. And these are always fun. Um, these are always good to like spice things up, so to speak, add a little bit more to your routine and to your everyday as far as like training is concerned. And also, when it gets to a point where some people will, especially noobs, when you're new in the gym and you're not really sure what you should be doing or how you should be doing it, a lot of times you see people just doing straight sets, 5 to 6 sets, 5 to 6 exercises, 5 to 6 sets, 10 to 12 reps, 12 to 15 reps. And, that gets, I mean, it works when you're starting out, but then at the same time, you could get burnt on that easily and you just get tired. And what you need to do is, expand your rules of engagement as far as like how you approach sets, how you approach exercises, what you're doing within those exercises to make everything count. I tend to go by the Lee Haney philosophy of stimulate, not annihilate, when it comes to working on the muscles. So, I may incorporate a lot of these things here in my rules of engagement for my routine, but at the same time, what I do understand is I'm not trying to like destroy the muscle. I'm trying to get to a point where like I feel that destruction that I've set upon myself, but at the same time, it's not to a point where I'm sore for like 4 days and can't do anything else because once again, I'm doing a full body routine 3 times a week. And being enhanced, I'm using products that help with the recovery on that. And we may talk a little bit about that in a bit. So we're going to start off with progressive overload, and we're also going to move me out of the way so that you can see my man Frank Zane in the picture. Um, Probably my favorite bodybuilder of all time. Everyone's riding Arnold's shriveled up nuts, but not me. Basically, progressive overload. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. We all do it without even thinking about it. You're increasing the weight as your current strength level adapts. Um, if you remember the book Brawn or Beyond Brawn, very old school. I think it came out like mid 90s, maybe even older than that. I have Beyond Brawn, and there was like a couple of supplemental books that they wrote. I forget I forget the author's name, so I'm kind of an idiot right now for not remembering this stuff. I'm gonna type it in. Do a quick search. And yeah, thank you for being useless, Microsoft Bing. Oldschooltrainer.com. Braun. Um, Stuart McRobert. I had the name on my on the tip of my tongue and it just wouldn't come out. So yeah, um, I have Beyond Brawn by Stuart McRobert, and the cool thing about that was it was kind of geared towards natural training. So a lot of it was not really, um, enhanced athletes in mind. It was a lot of like, if you train hard and you want to train harder, this is the way to go. One of the ideas in there was progressive overload, increasing weight as current strength level adapts. Basically, what ended up happening was in the book, he would explain like some of the old school gyms, which are a very much dead breed, prehistoric at this point, and that sucks, used to be able to find like 2.5 pound plates, and they would actually um, use those plates. Sometimes just tape them onto the plates they're using just to add a little extra resistance. And he was saying like it's not uncommon to go into a gym and see guys with like a bunch of these little plates just like duct taped onto the plates they're using, and like 45 pound plate with like 5 or 6 little 2.5 pound plates stuck to it. It was kind of a normal thing for them. Um, yeah, I've been adding chains and bands as well. Um, not so much chains. It depends on where I work out. If I work out at my buddy's gym, they do. I believe he does have chains here and there, and I will use them on occasion. And pretty good. I like it. And that's something that we always progressive overload is something that we do inadvertently and usually without thought. Increasing the rep range as endurance levels adapt. So basically, if you were able to do a weight for 12 reps, it'll get to a point where you're doing that same amount of weight for 14, 15, 16 reps. So it's just kind of like, all right, if I can get to 15 and I'm not like feeling that burn, what would happen if I get to like 18, 19, 20, 21, and just keep going from there. And then next thing you know, you're doing the psycho boy shit like I do. I do a lot of stuff like, for instance, squats. I mean, I could squat heavy. I usually go to a certain point to where like my joints and my nerve endings will allow. So like 335, I'll probably get to before I start. Before I'll definitely need to belt up. Um, I haven't done it in a while, so like maybe a couple of months. So at this point, it's like, yeah, I may need to wear a belt if I get to 300, and then get used to that feeling again, and then go forward from there. But like hack squat, yeah, I'm throwing about 6 to 7 plates on each side and doing 25, 30 reps or more. Like if I don't get to that burn point, I keep going. But then like once I do, and my uh, form starts breaking down, which we'll talk about also, then that's where I start to like implement other things like rest pause. We'll talk about that. That was a big thing with dog crap high intensity training, and yeah, that's usually another thing that I like to tell people about if they get to a point where they're just like, well, I'm doing this, but this isn't happening. Um, you just increase your weights a little bit. If the weight's not the problem, increase your reps a little bit. Implementing resistance bands, chains for added resistance, like my man does in the chat. The adding the chains and the bands do help, and it's like it's one of those points where every little bit matters, every little bit helps. Little goes a long way. All those cliches, but it's not really cliche in a sense. It's actually true. Um, One thing that I do like with the bands is that you can adjust them. You can get creative to a point where, say, like if you have a sticking point on the bench where people use blocks, they do block presses, where it's like they're trying to get that explosive power, depending on how far that block is away from their sternum. I know I have issues with that as well. So, sometimes you can set up the bands to where you get more resistance in the spots that you need to push through the most, so to speak. And then, chains will help with that as well. Sometimes you can put chains on the end of a barbell when you're doing bench or deads or anything like that, because it gives kind of like an unruly, because the chains shift and it gives you that uneven force that you got to deal against. And that helps with core strength, that helps with balance, that helps with proprioception. Um, exactly. Yeah. Some people do that, and it's kind of like they're not really fully understanding why they do it. It just looks badass. Um, I do it because I understand why, and then on top of that, when you're working within areas of movement, like I just said, sticking points, bottom half of bench press, for an example, say for instance squat, like because of my range of motion issues, I can't. I could go ass to grass on squat, but it's like I would start to get impingements in the hip. Um, my hip flexibility is fine. I do a lot of mobility stuff. I do a lot of, but it's just that my hip won't allow for a certain depth. But I can get like a lower seat, so to speak, like a little bench or box that I could like do squats to, and like, lightweight, have a seat at that uncomfortable position, They try to force the comfort, so to speak. So there's that. Like I was saying with the block presses, guys will put like 2x4s on their sternum, and then like have basically they'll bring the bar down, touch the block, and just blast it back up. That's really good for explosive movement, making sure that dynamic ability is there. Anytime you have sticking points, you just got to get creative as to where that weakness lies. Even like if you're doing a curl, and say like you get halfway, but you don't really feel the flexion in the bicep too much. So you're trying to bring it in more. It's kind of one of those things where you know you could exercise in a way that actually gets a little more out of basically that movement, and also just being able to feel that movement a little better. Um, so, very good idea for progressive overload is just being able to work within those movement areas. You could actually start your workout with that and then rep out afterwards, or you can use it at the end just to get that final burn in. Blood volume training. Um, don't be alarmed, Frank is wearing trunks. I'm just here because my favorite pose, by the way, as well. I talk about aesthetics. This is the man to do it. Fuck all this goofy shit people are doing these days. So, blood volume training, increased capillary density in muscle. What does that mean? Well, you got the smaller endothelial cells that feed into capillaries. The capillaries bring oxygen from the main blood vessels into the deeper parts of the muscle cells themselves. So that way you get more nutrients, more amino acids, and things like that in the body, in the muscle cells. So that way, you get more growth, you spark more mTOR activity, you spark more androgen receptor recruitment, all the fun stuff that we look at, Krebs cycle, all that fun thing. Um, so when you do blood volume training, first and foremost, it's just basically kind of like a nicer way of enhancing blood flow within the muscle. I'm not talking about blood flow restriction, BFR, which is similar but different. The thing with BFR is that since you're restricting the blood that's already in the muscle, you're keeping blood from coming out. So it's just kind of like super compensating for the blood that's already in the muscle, the oxygen that's already there, nutrients that are already there. And then once you release that restriction, you get more oxygen rich blood and nutri- nutrient rich. I can't fucking talk. Nutrient rich, and also, um, all the other substrates that are able to get in there, pull out the blood that's just like stuck, and like refresh it with newer, super compensated blood. So you get 4 to 5 sets, pretty high reps for like smaller muscles. Larger muscles, you can do a little more. Um, Blood volume training is something that I really implement into my training, especially, um, and I'll explain kind of how I do it. Um, on top of this, high rep isolation work after low rep heavy compound movements. So basically, say if you do heavy squats, and then afterwards you could do like um, high reps, not super heavy like leg extensions, like curls, just to really force a little more blood into that area to get that extra more stupid pump. Um, then you get the forced compensation of super compensation of glycogen and amino acid uptake post workout. This does not mean there's an anabolic window. Anabolic window is bullshit. If anything, it's more like an anabolic hallway because you have a long time from post workout to the next time you eat, and then the next time after that, the time after that, the time after that, to where your body is actually able to um, super compensate as far as like glucose uptake, filling those stores. Of course, your organ system tends to get more first, and then the other areas get after, and then it's just a matter of your nutrition in between that time. A lot of studies are saying that it's a good 48 hours, so you don't have to like go and chug a shake immediately after you work out. I mean, you can get one in anyway. I mean, it's not going to hurt, but it's just that don't be that guy that's like running through the gym with tubs of protein, thinking that just because you just finished your 48th set of curling in the rack, that you really need a protein shake right now. It's not going to work that way. So, with that super compensation there, that actually helps with making a little more of the nutrients that you get in a little better. And I mean, I actually may get into that a little more because of something that I'm doing research wise. And you thought I wasn't going to talk about enhancements. Heavy duty with the Menser man over here. Um, this is, of course, a popularized method of training by Mr. Menser himself. He started off with that. Um, a lot of times people will say, well, maybe it was done in Nautilus Gym or things like that because they were also into like a high intensity training style with all the machines. Um, but Mike had a different philosophy. If you look at it this way, um, his idea was to go for 6 to 9 reps with stupid heavy weights to where you're going to fail within that set. So if you can only get 6, that was your set. As long as you were able to keep those reps with very good form, and also having a spotter is a very good idea for this kind of training. Trust me on that. Won't get into why, but I will say that, many a times plates have been dumped. So 6 to 9 reps, heavy enough to fail by the last rep. So yeah, if you get number 5, number 6 feels like it's going to be a motherfucker, then that was your set. You did good. Um, After that, you rest for a little bit. This is where rest pause may have been a consideration, but that was before its fruition. You get reps in with a spotter, making sure that you're working the negative, making sure you're working the positive, making sure that you're actually just getting the weight up. And he only went with 1 or 2 sets per part because you're going all in with the 6 to 9 reps as heavy as you can. So um, if I were able to bench heavy like I used to, if there weren't so much like issues with my neck, the possibility of one of my arms just deciding to stop working because a nerve pinch here and there, and if I trained with a partner, then you know 1 and 2 sets could be doable. I could probably, I mean, I've played around. I could still move 305 roll relatively smoothly for about 10 to 12 reps. I try not to push it, but I could probably like get away with doing that and then working on going heavier. Who knows? Maybe I'll get back into it. So it's very low volume. Those of you that like to do like 40 sets for one body part, this may not be for you. Um, if you're doing 40 sets per body part, you're actually not really training that hard. So stop kidding yourself. Emphasis on perfect form always. Like I mentioned before, 6 to 9 reps heavy enough. You need a spotter, and the spotter is also there to make sure that you're doing the reps correctly. Perfect form is going to be paramount to having a perfect physique. Um, Jerking shit around and not doing things conducive to proper joint movement. I would say it's more joint manipulation if you're doing things to where it's decreasing the integrity of the tendons and ligaments of the area you're moving. Um, on top of that, you're gonna need a deload week. I would say if you're able to go 4 weeks on heavy duty, Don't push it to 5. Don't push it to 6. Um, but then again, that depends on your status. If you're natural and you're a freak already, you could probably get away with a 4 to 6 week high intensity routine, whether it be Mike Mentzer's Heavy Duty, whether it be Dorian Yates' Blood and Guts. Um, you know, like what's his name, Beast Mode, that I believe is natural. That's always going back and forth with Greg Doucette. Um, he could probably get away with that because he has the genetics and he's a nut job in all the best ways, of course. No drama here. Um, and I only mention people that I have respect for. So guess what? Respect the guy. He could probably get away with doing Mike Mentzer's Heavy Duty, or even Dorian Yates. Um, he could probably do it and recover no problem. He could probably do it while doing his dirty bulks and still come out in pretty damn good shape. So you know, definitely no hate here. Don't even try to start no shit. Okay, um, it's all out of respect. So honestly, German volume training. This was actually quite popular in the early mid 2000s in the heyday of uh, the pro hormone usage among people that were trying to say that they're still natty because it's not real. I got it from GNC, but whatever. You get 10 sets for 10 reps of a movement. So, I just put squats. You go in leg day, do German volume training. All you're doing is squats. All you're doing is 10 sets of squats for 10 repetitions. And you're going to be using a weight that you could do at strict form. And then, if you wanted to add in accessory lifts, you could do that. If you wanted to add a little more blood pump in there, definitely. Um, I've done German volume training style on legs before. It's rough, very, very rough, but I like it because I'm a little bit nutty. So 4 to 6 weeks of proper rest and nutrition will definitely spark muscle growth. I just said should. I think it'll definitely help. Um, and of course, it's ideal for both natties and enhanced lifters. I would say if you're natural and you go into German volume training, definitely be sure to make sure that your protein is on par. Nutrition is key for your recovery. Enhanced lifters, I have some ideas for you. Stay tuned. But I kind of want to just like not really have this be just, oh, he's talking about drugs again. Basically, I think anybody can do any routine, to be honest with you. It's just a matter of how they treat their recovery around that routine, how they treat their physiques around that routine. It's not necessarily like, oh, you could train like that because you're on this and unnatural. Like, why can't you? Um, you could also train this way too. It's just that you need to stop being a pussy and just decide to bust your ass now and then. Also, there's a lot of elite natties that are out there that could definitely do blood volume, German volume, high intensity. Um, it's just that in their mentality of, well, only enhanced do that, then, that's where it like skews everything. It's like, stop thinking that you have to be on something to be able to do something. Just fucking do it. I wasn't always on drugs, um, and I was able to amass a decent physique at an early age up until the time I felt that I needed to augment. And so, I mean, if you plan on staying natural forever, you can too. These are different ways of doing that. And also making sure that you're eating what you're supposed to be getting in. Micronutrients are important. Making sure your vitamins are there. Um, and if you wanted to work with a coach, work with a coach. Make sure that they're not all about just getting you on stage, bruh, and like loading you up with D-ball and whatever. There it is. Pretty simple, which is why I work with Merrick Health. Little shameless plug there. They're not necessarily all about gear. They do have natural athletes that work with them. Um, just checking the chat real quick because my man's got some words here. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I was a little more chasing size back then, but now I'm more or less chasing health and staying in shape. Got Franco here, looking quite saucy AF in his heyday. Um, I wouldn't mind having that look, but at the same time, I mean, he was 5'3". I probably, if I were 5'3", wouldn't I'd probably look like that or close. Not necessarily exactly because having Italian lineage, my Italian lineage doesn't match his. He's from Sardinia. My grandparents are from Sicily. Um, but yeah, stop being a bitch. If you're natty, who cares? Just do your shit and prove that you could do it natty. I did it for as long as I could until I started to get health issues and said, "Fuck it, I really need testosterone," and I did it. More rules of engagement. Why does everything have to have like a military vibe to it? Well, I'm former military. That should clue you to something. But this is basically how I've programmed my fitness, my full body routine, as I call it, full body mayhem. Um, I do superset a lot, and basically we were talking about supersets before in the beginning with the other slide that said rules of engagement. But here are the rules of engagement and their meaning. Supersetting, using two movements on one body part in succession. So, for instance, when I start my routine, I always start with legs. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday is always leg day for me. It has to be. I need to get my legs up. I need to get way more size on them. They've gotten better. Their shape has actually gotten better. My waist has come down, so it's kind of like I don't have this weird like illusion of being just really thick on top and not so thick in the bottom. And who doesn't like a thick bottom? You know what I mean? Although I'm a top. Anyway, I use two movements to start off, and usually that would look like if I'm just for just warm ups, I will do, um, sometimes you could go. Usually, supersets entail just working that same muscle twice. So, leg extension, I'll just do like lightweight, high rep, just to like get the blood flowing, make sure I can see the veins through the compression pants. So, get up and start just doing air squats. Or sometimes I'll go to like a leg press machine, just throw like 200 pounds on the pin, do like 20 reps, warm up, and then get up and start doing alternating lunges or just walking lunges. If there's no one around, I could walk up and down. If I go to Gym Hub in town in Boston, they have like a turf, and usually I go and there's no one in there, so I could do that. They have like a leg press next to the turf. I can just go over there to warm up, do some leg presses, and then get up 20 paces down the turf, 20 paces back. Um, they have the Frank Zane leg blaster, so I may actually try that out next time I'm in. So I use that to warm up, and I also use it interspersed within the routine as well. Certain body parts that I want to add a little bit to, I will definitely use supersets more than once in a routine. Jaya sets, that's when you're going between 4 exercises or more for that one body part. So it's basically a hardcore superset. So, like what I like to do with chest is sometimes I'll start off on the bench, and once again, going back to my buddy's gym, if it's empty, I'll like load up barbell with weight that I know I can do, and come back to and keep doing. I will do, you know, my 12 to 15 or my 15 to 20 or my 20 plus reps, rack the weight, get up, go next to that bench on the incline. There's a pair of dumbbells waiting. I'll pick them up, crank out reps on that, go to the next station, do pec deck, Go to the station after that. It might be a seated upright bench press and do that. So there you go, 4 exercises for that one body part. That's a giant set. Then I go back and start over again. So maybe do 2 giant sets, sometimes 3, depending on how much I hate myself. Um, they could be painful. I just don't go super heavy with them, but I go heavy enough to where I get the stimulus I need. Time under tension. How long is the muscle under stress from that weight? Going back to dog crap, old school, um, dog crap used to preach time under tension, and he used to also preach dynamic stretching. For instance, holding a barbell or a dumbbell at this flex point and then dropping your elbows back as far as you can, trying to relax your back and getting all this pull backwards just to get that deep stretch in. Also, with like an overhead holding a dumbbell and just letting it pull that muscle, really deep stretch. I like to do time under tension a lot, pretty much always. Um, it also means like not just like holding it at the bottom position, but just basically how long do you have the muscle under tension, whether it's at the bottom of the movement, at the top of the movement, are you pushing, are you squeezing, you know what I mean? Um, some exercises, like when I do lateral raises, like delta's starting to look a little respectable these days. You know, I'll do like a lighter rate so I could bring them up, really get a squeeze at the top, and like bring them down slowly, just to keep that shape and emphasis on the muscle there. And I got more viewers. I got to flex on camera more often. What's happening, everybody? Thanks for joining me. We're just talking about training, exercises, stuff like that. Let me bring my zoom down a little bit so that I can get a little more in the frame. There we go. Then, yeah, so time under tension is actually pretty good. Just, keeping the weight. And I feel like for me, especially like if I'm doing cable press downs for triceps, just being able to like really squeeze and flex the triceps at the bottom and then like really slowly bring it up, just keeping the tension where I need that tension, so that way that gets more blood flow in there and all that fun stuff. High reps, using weight below max, and performing strict reps just short of or until complete failure. That depends on the body part. Like I don't do bench pressing or anything like that to like complete failure. I'll go a little bit short just because I want to be able to control that weight. I want to be able to maximize my ability to move that weight over that distance. So, if I trained with a partner, then, that would give me a little more, um, I could have somebody that's watching, making sure that I'm moving the weight the way I'm supposed to and everything, and also keep me from failing too soon. So, when you're doing things like that's why I use a hack squat machine. That's why I loaded up the plates. Um, I think um, my sports club, I can get like 8 or 9 plates on there before it's teetering. But like I, you know, use those as kind of like, yeah, I gotta get to that point to where like, yeah, my form's starting to break. Rest a little bit, keep going. Then reps past failure, where you get a spotter in so that they can help you keep your keep your reps going, keep your form intact, so you're not like collapsing in on yourself, ending up one of those epic fail videos on YouTube and on social media now, because everyone's an ass, everyone's taping everything. Um, that is true. There is a difference between a workout partner and someone that you just work out with. I mean, I've had a lot of people that I just worked out with, which is why I stopped working out with people, because it was more or less just like, we're having a conversation, um, we're moving the weight around, and resting just gets a little like less restful, so to speak, because we're in the middle of a conversation, Next thing you know, it's been 2 hours and I barely did 40 minutes of work, and that's bullshit. So, when I started to actually get serious in competing, that's where I just started to like train by myself, because I know like nobody's going to push me like me, unless, of course, I decide to go and have somebody else help me. And, like I said, a buddy of mine's pro. He trains with Jose Raymond. One day I can, pop in there, see what he's got to offer. I mean, the man's got tree trunks for legs. His legs are bigger than his torso. It doesn't make any sense. But, like, I know that my buddy had good, uh, he had good results working with Jose as far as like getting his legs up. And I'm kind of just like, all right, if I'm going to spend the money for everything else, why not spend it on Jose beating the shit out of me a couple of times a week so that my legs start to look better. They're getting there now, on their own, slowly but surely, but that's going to be like in my back pocket. If I have to reach for my backup weapon, that's going to be my backup weapon. Reps past failure, having a spotter, a good spotter that's going to help you, that you're going to help them. Then drop sets was pretty much one of my favorite movements. You know, just getting those reps in. Once it starts to feel like you're failing, drop the weight, keep pumping out some reps. Once you get that feeling back, drop the weight again. Having someone strip your weights off your barbell, um, having people strip the weights off the hammer strength, that pretty much drops it. Or you could be that goofy SARM goblin that has like all the dumbbells in one corner doing terrible form, but I trust everyone here is doing way better form than that, so I'm not going to make judgments here. But yeah, getting those reps in. Once you start to feel that burn, you're getting to that point of failure. Stop, take take some weight off, not all of it, but a good amount. Then keep going. That's like the main thing. You just want to keep going. And types of routines. We were talking about that in the beginning of the video. The different types of routines and how you can incorporate these kinds of training modalities into them. Like I was saying with the bro split, this is typically what it looks like. It's always chest and triceps, back and biceps, quads and hammies, or just legs. Everyone does the lazy couple of sets of calves at the end of the workout, and where you end up in that genetic lottery, maybe that works for you and you're an asshole. Maybe it doesn't. And you just need to do a little more than just like, all right, I'm done with everything else. I'll just do calves. Nope. Calves got to be at the beginning of the workout. Like for me, especially since I start off with legs, I do a lot of warm ups. Well, not a lot, but when I do my warm up sets, it's usually a superset where it's like quads, hams, calves, and tibialis, front of the calf, which is why the front of my legs is starting to get stupid vascular. And I tend to use a lot of those supersets in that sense. There you go. But yeah, the bro split, this is usually how it works. And the idea behind it is that you're using protagonist muscles like chest versus, the antagonist. You came a little too soon there, buddy. A nickel every time that happened. Anyway, uh, that's not happening lately. Meant basically the idea was, well, your triceps are secondary to your chest, so it makes sense to train them together. Back of biceps, same thing. Quads and hamstrings, same thing. But it's a boring and tedious road that people tend to do at the beginning. Guilty of it myself. Um, but there are better things. You got push pull legs, which is kind of a similar vein to the bro split, but you're doing a little more than you would in an average bro split. Because an average bro split, you're just doing like bench press, incline, flat, decline, stupid. You're doing some sort of dumbbell movement for chest. Then you're doing a bunch of stuff for triceps, sometimes more heavier than you need to, this, that, and the third. I mean, it's just me, but I feel like my triceps responded very well to lighter weight, higher reps. Even though I do get heavy with them sometimes, their endurance has gotten way better. So I can do high reps on the tris with a heavier weight. Same thing with back and biceps, which is pull day. You're doing a lot of rowing movements. Um, you're doing a lot of stuff where you can incorporate shoulders as well. So for a push day, that'd be overhead press, military press. Pull day, you can do lateral raises because technically, if you think about it, this muscle is pulling outward. If you understand like the mechanics, this is pulling outward. So you can still count that as a pull. And then legs. I would say push pull legs did a lot for my physique in recent times. I would say more so that because I just kind of like went blank and had that old person moment of, all right, what do I do now? Nothing seems to be working, and like that sucks for me because you know I went to college for this shit. I should know how to program things. I've been a personal trainer since I was 18. I really should know how this shit works. And sometimes, even like the old guard gets a little like, all right, this old dog needs new tricks. So I started looking at push pull legs, and two things for me. What made me switch to full body is one, I'm not doing legs enough, and I really need to get legs to a competitive standpoint. So what I started to do near the end of my push pull legs tenure was on push days we leg press because you're pushing with your legs. It's a push movement. Pull days, um, sumo deadlifts, because you're pulling and your hamstrings are controlling that. Romanian deadlifts, stiff leg deadlifts, they are leg dominant, glute dominant. Push day, calves, you're pushing with your calves, getting that stretch and pushing outward with your toes makes your calves flex, makes them grow. So I started to program push days with some sort of leg pressing movement, pull days with leg curls, definitely something to get the hamstrings going. And then leg day, of course, was leg day where it was kind of like full on oblivion, destroy the fuck out of your legs because you're not doing it as heavy the days prior. You're doing it stupid heavy today. So then I went to a full body split, um, which, some people say 2 or 3 times a week is pretty good. Um, Going on the idea of being able to train the body, like most body parts, you could train it with a 48-hour turnaround time. Of course, this depends on your recovery and nutrition around that. Um, my recovery is pretty damn good, and I'll explain why. Um, so I do 3 days a week, full body. And I'll also go into, as you saw in my big narcissistic post after this, when I skipped ahead, I'll show you the exact way I programmed it. Then also, we talked about German volume training, compounds 10 for 10, accessory movements, but they're not mandatory. I've seen some routines where you don't do any kind of compound, well, not compound, you don't do any accessory movements at all. You're just doing compounds, 10 reps, 10 sets. And also, you're doing them relatively heavier as things progress. So there is progressive overload in this. You're not going like, say, for instance, if you're first trying it out and you're not exactly sure how it would feel. When I first did it, I just did 135 for squats. Yeah, it's a lightweight. Most people warm up with that for like infinite amount of reps and they don't feel it. But I looked at it this way. If you're going to be doing 10 strict reps for 10 sets with little rest in between, I started as light as possible just to make sure that I wasn't going to like do something stupid and I wouldn't be able to walk for a month. And I was correct. Very sore the next day, the next couple of days. Um, Lots of protein was taking in, lots of aminos. I'll also talk about that in a moment. And then the heavy duty slash Dorian Yates blood and guts. Um, uh, Types of routines that really tax your body, really force growth, and also what you do outside the gym kind of dictates what happens while you're in it. And now for something totally different, my junk. There you go. There's four of you watching, so y'all can go and luxuriate in my Young LA underwear, my former bloat slash loose skin in this classic pose I like to do. Look at the veins coming in on the legs. Not bad. So we're gonna do this. I'm gonna censor myself for a quick second because yeah, y'all didn't come here to see my junk, or did you? Mr. Camello's full body routine, or as I call my full body mayhem. Like I've been saying this whole time, legs first. But for anyone else that wanted to try it the way I do it, start with your lagging and or weaker body part first. So if you're doing it for strength and your legs happen to be weak, you want to be able to get your squat numbers up, sure, go legs first. I go legs first because I need them to be a little more muscular. Boom, they're getting there. But I want them to be a little more competitive. Um, when it gets to a point where other competitors look at you and go, men's physique, you know what I mean? And they're not saying it because you have an athletic frame, they're saying it because your legs are smaller than theirs. And it's kind of like a silly thing, kind of like how in the armed forces we make fun of each other. Like we call the Air Force the chair force. Marines have their jokes about the Army. Army has many a joke about the Marines being Navy concierge, but that's another story. That could be in another video, another time. Heavy sets. I do 10 to 15 reps. And what's a heavy set? So, like, say, for instance, like I was saying before, I do hack squats because barbell squats, I don't really have the range in the hips. Whereas, for some reason, if I'm on a platform and the weight's in a controlled state, as far as like being on the hack squat, I'm actually able to get a little more into a depth that I can control. And if I gotta say fuck it and dump this weight, the foot thing is right in front of me. Um, Trust me, I've had practice on like having a stupid amount of weight on my back, getting to failure, and being able to just like get to a point where I know the thing will catch. If I very quickly stomp and drop it, it'll lock in place and it doesn't freak people out. Um, So yeah, heavy sets, 10 to 15 reps, depending on what I'm doing. Like I said, um, like for as far as legs are concerned, for me, like I could do like heavy machine stuff. Like if I use the leg press machine, I think the one at the Boston Sports Club goes up to like 400, 500 maybe. I could do 15 reps of the stack on that, which isn't impressive to most meatheads, but whatever. I'm good. Fuck. It works for me. Moderate sets, so that's like weight that I can move for a good amount of time, where I'm gonna get close to failure after 20 reps. So if I could go 25 reps, I'll keep going until I start to feel that burn, that agitation, and I'm like, all right, I don't want my form to break down, so I'm gonna stop here. Then muscle groups. Get 3 to 4 exercises each. I'm actually able to get that within an hour. Of course, me talking doesn't get an hour. It gets a little more than that. Muscle groups get 3 to 4 exercises each, and then I add in supersets, giant sets, blood volume, German volume in some of those exercises. So, um, and honestly, if there's a day where I plan a German volume style set, what I will do is I will cut down basically any accessory exercises I had for that body part because it's going to be pretty taxed anyway. So it's not going to be like, holy shit. Am I losing viewers because no one can see my junk? I will put my junk back up on the screen. Yeah, tell everybody my junk's on the screen. I always get questions about it. There you go. That young LA shorts have a nice pouch, I must say. Each day has a different muscle group and it's targeted for harder work. So the heavy sets. Um, I tend to do legs really heavy at the beginning of the week, and then um, it's funny. Like I'm on the Young LA Discord, and people think I look like the guy that's in their ads already. Um, I might be bigger. Anyway, um, nah, he's doing his thing. I ain't gonna hate on him. I do heavier legs on Mondays, so tomorrow I'm gonna go in and trash legs. I'll invite you, bro. Uh, hopefully they'll let me invite you. I know they were like inviting people through Instagram, and it was kind of private at one point, but not really. It's just kind of like I think it was more or less like you could find it, but if they invite you, then you know. But I'll see if I can invite you. Give me a minute. Um, it's a bit weird, but what else? I like weird. And yeah, so I do the heavier legs. I'll do really heavy on Monday. Um, I may even do another body part just as well, not just as heavy. So like I'll do heavy legs tomorrow, and then like maybe even do some heavy sets for back as well. I try to do a balance to where I'm not, like I said, the Lee Haney principle. Trying not to annihilate. I'm trying to stimulate. So there are body parts where I will do them stupid heavy, and then other body parts, since I am doing a full body routine, I'm trying to do in a way to where they're getting the stimulus as well, but I'm not gassing. So, you know, I may do straight sets with squats tomorrow, but then like superset shoulders and superset back, and then do some heavy chest because it's Monday. Everyone does chest on Monday, but I don't typically. So there's that. And each day muscle groups will change. So I'll do heavy Monday legs always. Calves I may do heavy Wednesday with another body part. So maybe, and then Friday I might do heavy hamstrings. So it's like, yeah, I'm doing legs every time I train at the beginning of my training, and I'm not neglecting any part of them. But like, last week I did um, the adductor, abductor, and the glute kickback machines heavy for on Friday. Um, but before that, I just did high reps, moderate weight. I think for like warm up, I just did like 5 sets of 10, like half of a German volume for warm up, and 135 barbell squats, um, which can be demoralizing because even though it's lightweight, when you're going back to back to back to back to back 10 reps, really think about it until like set 4. You're like, why am I failing at 7? You know what I mean? Like this is supposed to be a warm up, and you just keep going because you're insane. And then after that, I just did heavy adductors squeezing in with the thighs, heavy abductors moving away, and then the heavy glute kickbacks because I'm trying to get my ass looking good, well, my booty looking nice, and the wife hasn't been complaining about my butt yet, well, at all. She likes slapping me on the butt, like, damn, this boulder's back out. Like, yeah, that's right. Heavy work is done in descending order, so this is just an idea. My it always kind of like switches around for the last 4 legs. I always start my routine with legs, so anyone else that wanted it programmed in a certain way, start off with the the body part that you would want to have a little more work with. And also, for me, like I think I just as I was putting this together, I just did it how I did it that week. I did this last week, so um, if I talked about this Friday, this would have explained my routine on Friday. Legs, there was a couple of heavy sets in there. Then back, that could have been blood volume, and then also some heavy or heavy and blood volume, and descending order from density on down. Most sets go until failure with good form. Breaking form either ends the set or I go into a rest pause movement. So, if my form starts to break down on squats, I will like lock the weight in place, rest for a little bit, probably do some squats off to the side, maybe wall sit for a second just to like let my lower back readjust because I have a lot of lower back issues, which is why I don't do with the bar that very much with heavyweight. Um, I go back in, I'm able to lock everything back into place and get quality reps again. And you know, and if I'm starting to get to that point of failure, rest pause is where I'll come in. That's dog crap modality. Back in the day, he used to really emphasize rest pause and just keep on going. Rest between sets varies due to load. So when I'm lifting heavier, um, you know, like if something I'm doing is 300 pounds, I'm gonna rest 30 to 60 seconds. After lighter stuff, 30 to 45 seconds. That's just basically me walking to the water fountain. I stopped having a water bottle mainly. What's up? What's up? I got my junk out on screen for you. So my rests between sets vary due to load. Sometimes if I'm feeling pretty good, if I happen to sprinkle a little pre-workout androgen in there, my heavy rest might actually be a little less than 30. To be honest with you, I'll just catch my breath, um, just grit, and just go back in there and bang. That was everything. And then that's my second screen, so I don't really care what's going on over here. I will move stuff over as necessary. I like having the second screen. You don't get to see the Futanari point I have in the background. But yeah, that is my. Oh yeah, being overly equipped drives me crazy. I actually had a friend of mine was like, Pete, I want to work out with you. I want to, train with you, this, that, and third. And I'm like, I gave him the talk, like, dude, this is gonna be serious. Like, I may not talk, I may not conversate through the whole thing. Um, the workout is gonna be stupid. It's gonna be hard. You may not like me after this, and no, I don't care. Whatever, whatever. I need to do this. I need to do that. So what happens aside from the fact that I have more viewers now because my junk's on the screen? What's happening, everybody? Came to check out the Young LA shorts. I know it's okay. You can. I may make that a full screen so that everyone gets to bask in the glory of my sack, my shiver, my shriveling sack because it's on TRT. Um, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of reps, senpai. Lots of reps. Um, one of these days, if I get a little more popular and I'm able to reinvest back into it, I may record. Nope, my program can be programmed for anybody. If you happen to be using PEDs, community guidelines. I'm not telling people to use drugs. I'm not popularizing them. I'm not making them sound fancy. I don't give a fuck. Um, to be honest with you, I don't do a lot of volume. Um, I could pull up my actual, like, the logs of my routine because I was going through one point. Let me see. I have it around here somewhere. I have a lot of routines that I've been putting together, um, and more or less like not really not really cookie cuttering. I just do more or less like, here's an idea of a routine. And then, like, if someone says, well, I wanted to do this, I can always go back and say, I have an idea. And then, did I lose my, did I lose my routine? No. Wait. There it is, because I'm a freaking idiot. No, that's the same thing we're looking at now. Not mine. I'm an idiot. Um, I happen to have lost. No, I don't know if I lost it. I think it's more or less just like it's in my other computer and I don't have it syncing to this one because, you know, somebody that fancies himself a cloud technician doesn't utilize the cloud very much. Um, it would seem like it because, yeah, the roots. No, hold on. I'm an idiot. I am an idiot. Well, I would say it's more like I was saying before earlier in the conversation. It's more in the lines of how you recover to where this will work. Yep, me and Trunks. That's right. Soak it in. Basically, I would say the thing with that is if you're able to recover and you're able to facilitate recovery, and let's go into recovery a little more. That's creepy, but have at it. I would say with recovery, um, if you're able to get in your micronutrients, macronutrients, um, if you're able to sleep and, you know, get in the, yeah, it's the same one. All right, hold on. This is weird. Why can't I can't find my own shit. I feel like an old person in the store, like, why can't I find anything? Um, I'm gonna open up Word. I can more than likely find it that way. That's easier. Um, and Word will tell me the last time I opened it, and then that way I can pull it up on the fucking screen and not be stupid. Here we go. 3, 6, 9, 12, 18 sets. That's not really a lot. Um, I am going to show this. Check me out being able to do this without actually looking at the screen. Um, well, I can find my trunks. They're in the room. I'm not wearing them at this moment. But yeah, if you look at this routine here, this was just kind of like an idea that I had put down. Basically, I'm gonna look over here so I can zoom in and out. View. There we go. So check this out. So this is basically kind of how I had it programmed, more or less for my own sanity purposes. So I have it set so like I could Berserk Guts Trunks. What's that? All right, now I got a link to check. Oh, okay. That's actually kind of cool. I'll check those out, man. Thanks. But yeah, um, basically for this routine, um, I just had it programmed for in the beginning, kind of like I was looking at what body parts do I need to work on the most. Of course, start with squats and then add in the next muscle and then the next and the next, and going in. But then like I had it interspersed to where I wasn't doing solely legs for a set amount of exercises altogether. This is kind of how I had it programmed in the beginning. So 3 sets. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. And that's on a Monday, so to speak. My man coming through with the shorts. They're crazy. Oh, okay. I'll have to check those out too, man. Thanks. Um, I mean, anything's a welcome change from Just Saying because they take like months to ship this shit out. And I don't, I'm waiting for like JoJo Bizarre Adventures tank tops, some more Broly tank tops because I'm like in between sizes on there. Like larges fit, but they're not long enough. And then like extra larges fit actually kind of perfect. Um, so I'm waiting for a couple of tops from them, and I was always thinking like maybe I should get some more outfits from them, but I'm like I don't know if I want to risk. Maybe it fits, maybe it doesn't. You know what I mean? But yeah, here this is kind of like how I started the program in my um, routine. This is how I was programming it before, and I kind of had it shifted there. This is just a template, to be honest with you. I was looking at this as like the beginning of it. The way I have it now is, you know, I have a warm up, so maybe there's more sets to it, more volume to it, but I'm on trust alone, so recovery right now is not a problem for me. Um, it actually is because it like I have to like remember to not overdo, you know, a lot of stuff because I don't want to like burn myself out. Even if I am enhanced, you can get to a point of diminishing returns, and that's kind of why I keep dosages below where you. Yeah, I'll link up Just Saying for you. Boo, 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 Just Saying. I mean, their designs are pretty cool, and they don't look cheap. They don't feel cheap. Um, Let me see. I think I have. Not on that one. I might have a coupon. Hold on. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if you are just joining us, you are awesome. Thank you for stopping by. Uh, we were talking about training and different methods for programming your training. And right here is basically a full body routine that I had programmed for myself that has since changed since this setup here. This is just kind of like a basic layout for how my routine was. And you know, it's evolved since then. Um, if I could find the other piece that yeah, so this is kind of like a simple full body routine that I like also programmed more or less just like to have like you're working a little bit of everything, compound movement and all that fun stuff in there. The mic's about to fall off. Uh, Sorry if there's any extra noise. Let me tuck it in there so it stays in place. Ooh, okay, it's still on. Good. I thought I hit the button, but yeah. Um, with the thing with volume though is like you can always adjust it to what works for you, and that's what I used to tell clients. I would give them like when I work with clients and I'm like I'm pretty sure you can handle 4 or 5 sets of this, but if you feel like you need to recover drop a set, um, or do the sets but drop the weight. Um, you can always go back. You can always go back. So there is that. Um, so, but this is kind of like a routine that I had programmed that I have since made adjustments on as far as if you look at like some of the highlights, the failure to each movement, 5 to 10 pound weight increases, so that would signify at progressively overloading that movement. Time under tension for the leg press, so making sure like hold the bottom position, hold the top position. Um, the machine bench press, blood volume, just like also adding more weight in there, so you get that extra. That's kind of how I've been programming my routine, just more or less going in and getting all of that done. And there, for those of you that missed it, there I am in my trunks. Um, I got to get the lighting in this room down, because it's like if I stand a certain spot and I'm too close to the camera, I'm way more washed out. And then the other spots, there's way too many shadows. Then I try to mix down the picture, and it turns into this, where it's like half, oh, I see cuts, and the other half, it's like, oh, but you look like you're holding water. So whatever. And yeah, I should be proud of what's shown. So yeah, that's me being proud, being a typical guy. Got my dick on the internet. There you go. But other things with training, as far as natural and enhanced is concerned, um, for both, I would say, and a lot of people are going to be like, "Oh, this is garbage," but whatever. It does work. It can work. I'm gonna watch my viewers drop when I do this, and that is supplement with essential amino acids, not branched chain amino acids, essential amino acids. Because yeah, leucine works, isoleucine works, valine works. We get it. It's been shoved down our throats. A lot of marketing hype around that. But what we do want is honestly a little more in the lines of, are we getting the anabolism that we need? You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, why get a third of that if branched chain aminos are essential amino acids? Our body is able to make them if they need them. Get the non essentials in that the body can't make on its own, that are needed to help those amino acids actually do their shit better. So I'm not going to sit around and be the cliche with the gallon of water that's pink with the pink lemonade branched chain aminos when I can have methionine, threonine, phenylalanine in there with it, histidine, um, maybe even a little creatine, because creatine is N-methylene-glycine. It's basically glycine, methionine, and I think there's like an half an arginine atom in there as well. It's been a while since I've looked at the chemical makeup, but let me see if I could find the coupon code for Just Saying, because I thought I had one. I could have sworn I had one. But other than that, you know, with the things that you got to understand, oh shit, I may have tossed it. Um, they usually send one all the time. If I find one, I'll hit you up. But pretty much, I would say like essential amino acids. And yeah, people are like, well, if you eat enough protein, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, but look at it this way: you're doing something that's demanding of your protein stores, your nitrogen balance. So why not overload that area? Why not keep that tap flowing, so to speak? Because, like, back in the days, people thought a GH bleed was bad. Oh, you don't want a GH bleed. And it's like, you kind of do. MK677 creates a GH bleed, but it's like on the lower end of where, you know, it's kind of like people are starting to do this generic versus pharma comparison, which honestly, if it's 191 amino acid sequence, regardless of who makes it, it's going to do the same thing all the time. Um, what it what sets them apart is that pharmaceuticals tend to have um, different additives in their product to where you get a different feeling. Um, do I get carpal tunnel from the generics that I use? No, but I do get the water retention. I do get it in the ankles. I am using products for blood pressure, um, helping the blood pressure, modulating blood pressure, things like that. I'm also doing cardio, and I'm also being mindful of how often I'm moving around. So it's not so much as I'm doing something stupid. I guess is the easiest way to go about that. But I am making sure, like, once again, I do talk about harm reduction. I'm making sure the harm reduction is there. I'm making sure that I'm not overdoing or even sell myself short in some cases. So, I'm taking advantage of that GH bleed, what I'm doing now, community guidelines. I'm not glorifying the use of drugs. I'm not telling you how to use drugs. I'm just explaining my research. I'm not actually a doctor. I'm just a nut job that likes putting needles in his body. Anyway, um, those needles don't contain anything illegal. Also, um, for me, what happens is I was hoping that keeping my junk on the screen would keep the viewers around. I guess people are off with their Photoshop putting my torso on a cherub or their torso on top of my waist so that they have. Anyway, um, with the GH bleed that you get from MK677 doesn't compare to the one you get from CJC 1295 with drug affinity complex or even without, because it's a drug hormone releasing hormone. So you're going to get way more of a response with it. Um, Also, one thing that I like to do and what I'm doing now, and I'm actually two things that I thought about since this adventure here. I'm going to write a book with all my research in it. Of course, it's all anecdotal. Of course, there'll be some studies in there that kind of fit the reasons why I'm doing it and the reasons why I'm looking at these certain products. So it's not gonna just be like, oh, this is what a meathead. This is a meathead diary. It's gonna be kind of like, I looked at the studies, I looked at the science, and I decided to try this and see what it would do for me, whether that's physique wise, performance wise, what have you. So I'm thinking about putting together a book with all of the weird things that I've done lately. Um, may also even get a website put together finally. I had one a long time ago, and I may actually see if I could get it back. If I can get it back, what I'll end up doing is it was more of a blog than anything anyway, so I'll have like the blog section, then I'll have it link the other website to where there's more stuff like this, where it's like, I'll talk about training, I'll talk about enhancements, I'll talk about just lifestyle shit if that's something people are interested in. I am 47. I mean, may have lived a good amount, so I can always share the wealth there. Um, let's see. I'm just looking at some stuff. Yeah, a lot of the old bodybuilding.com stuff is gone. That's what happens when new people come in and clean house. See if it gets more viewers. But while we're here, while we're chatting, you know, my main thing was to get more. Yeah, Big Cat. He passed away a while now. Didn't he pass away like 10 years ago? Something like that. Yeah, it was built up on at like 40. He wasn't that old. I think I was. I think I was actually older than him when he passed away. It was funny. Like the first time I actually saw his picture, I was like, "Whoa, that's Big Cat." Because like I was expecting him to be just like this like monstrous guy, but I mean, he was in shape, yeah, but he wasn't what I had in my mind when the conversations I had with him. Cool guy though. I'd say near the end of his tenure on the board, he did get a little weird and he started to rub people the wrong way. But I mean that's par for the course. Yeah, that is pretty much it. It's funny how like a lot of like the big CrossFit guys that look ridiculous weren't always CrossFit guys that looked ridiculous, and the women that all they did was CrossFit look way better than the men that only do CrossFit. It's so funny at a physique standpoint. I was trying to talk my wife into doing CrossFit because she's built like she does CrossFit, but she doesn't. And like I have friends that do CrossFit, and yeah, a lot of those big guys do come from strongman and powerlifting, and some of them even dabbled in a little bodybuilding here and there, which is why they know what drugs to take. Um, Big dumb muscle heads, right? Um, we know what to take. You assholes, go fuck yourself. But you know, that was like another weird thing. It was just like a lot of guys. Somebody trying to order pizza in my name. Fuck those guys. Um, but yeah, that thing's blinking. It's driving me nuts. But yeah, there was a point in time where I remember like I don't even remember what I was talking about. All right, I'm lost. I'm just gonna go into the comments. That is true. That is true. I knew a guy that was like all big into like yoga and CrossFit, and like I think it was like the last time I did a show, and he was like being all preachy and judgy about how, oh, doing it, bodybuilders do this, that, the third, and all this other nonsense. But at the same time, it's like, bro, like, why are you talking shit about what I do for a sport and what I enjoy? But at the same time, you look the same. Your physique has yet to change. Nothing you've done, you have nothing to show for it. Hello. And it's kind of funny when people get like judgmental like that, and it's like you got nothing to show for it. Like basically. And I hate functional fitness, functional strength, and all this other nonsense because has that none of that makes sense to the fact that uh, hold on, um, a lot of what you're doing and preaching is from somewhere else anyway, and you know, once again, yeah, they're doing it poorly. It's like pick a lane, and some of them is just like weird, like they want to run around in the desert with rocks and stuff like that. Now this is worse than check drops, man. Check drops chemical name is mibiralone. This is metribolone methyltriinolone, which sounds strangely enough like tren. Well, trenbolone, to be fair, the chemical name for trenbolone is trianolone anyway. Little known fact. So methyltriinolone. methyltren. Yeah, this is the disgusting stuff. Look at that androgenic to anabolic ratio, though. It's ridiculous. Um, it's pretty crazy. Like, who needs something that strong? Research scientists do. Yeah, your hair should cower in fear. That luxurious mane. Um, it's funny. Now I take the junk photo down, and everybody's on. Thanks for the confidence boost, guys. So for those that are joining in, welcome. I'm gonna probably ramble for another 20 minutes though, because I got shit to do today. Um, I just threw up the metribolone because it's kind of my thing. I'm gonna throw up a picture of a random anabolic, and we'll talk about it. I was talking about training and types of training, different things you can do to augment your training. This will end up on YouTube afterwards. So far, so good. No one's whined. I don't have any homophobic slurs thrown at me yet, but have ever seen metribolone on the market? Years ago, I have, and then like my suspicion was that it was all fake because it's supposed to be the truest form of a research product. Um, Nobody really advocates for the use of this in humans to the point where they're not even sure of its half life. They think it's 8 hours. They think it could be 20. Like there's a lot of like weird things on like because they use it in receptor testing. Like when they biopsy a rat and take out cells, they'll use metribolone or methyltranolone um, to show like binding affinity in cells and things like that, and like just to like spark activity in that cell. And it's kind of like how they figured out like the whole, yeah, it's a marker basically. That's kind of how they figured out the whole thing. Where, and I gotta find that research again and probably talk about that in another stream. But like when people talk about, oh, this, you got a ton of receptors in the traps and in the delts, and I'm like, well, what does that say for people with bad shoulder genetics? Like honestly, I think I have my shoulder genetics are kind of random, to be honest. They look good now because I've been beating the living hell out of them, but like there was a point in time where I didn't have like delt separation and all this like going on. I didn't have all this like maybe I would say 5 years ago. I didn't have all that. My shoulders would always like get bigger, but they didn't have any like really. They didn't look good. Well, to my standards at least, they didn't look all that great. But then like I've always had big traps because I started powerlifting when I was 14, and all I did was bench, dead, squat, and maybe you know cheating on a rep. I may have shrugged a little bit, and you know that's where I think my genetics started for my traps because my traps were always better than my shoulders. And if the meathead logic of, well, the traps and the shoulders are dense with androgen receptors, so that actually fuels my case to the fact that it's not so much my shoulder genetics are terrible, it's so much that my ability for those androgen receptors to activate is terrible. So also the fact that when I was younger, my testosterone levels were below where they should have been anyway, up until like my mid 20s. And then, like, even then, there was always this constant shift where they wouldn't go over 300, but they wouldn't stay, they'd be between 160 and 300. And it's like, for somebody between 18 and 21, that's stupid low. and it was affecting me depression wise and everything. So I did see a study that said, well, there is truth to the androgen receptor density thing, but I mean, it's also genetic. It's definitely genetic, and also regardless of whether or not, like, someone can have a higher density of androgen receptors in their calves and have tiny calves. Somebody can have a high density of androgen receptors in their quads, have small quads. It's just a matter of where they fall into the cascade where the body decides to use them and also activate those cells. And also with the fact that in our anabolic catabolic states, we're constantly turning over cells anyway. So, one, receptors don't get dirty, stop falling into that marketing hype. And two, the fact of the matter is, the body will decide to activate dormant receptors if it feels the need because there's a super physiological load of androgen. I mean, for someone that swears up and down that they're um, a heavy aromatizer, what does that mean? That means that if their body is making way more aromatase enzyme to convert the testosterone that they're taking, one, they should be truthful about the dosage of testosterone they're using. So if someone's dosing 5 to 700 milligrams or even a gram of test, and then like they're heavily aromatizing, no, it's the body's response to being super saturated with an androgen. You know, the body always wants balance. So if you take 200 milligrams, get your blood work done, and your estrogen barely moves, that means your body's probably figured out a way to balance itself. Um, and that's also kind of why I take a lot of diindol methane, just to make sure that the body remembers where that baseline should be and keeps it there. So my estrogen levels stay, for normal standards, at a pretty high. Yeah, and a gram of test is way out of control. That's abuse. I honestly feel like maybe even 500 milligrams can be considered abusive. I'd say like a normal gym rat doesn't need 500 milligrams of testosterone. Um, if you're a competitor and you're doing well, maybe we could look at it as part of occupational hazard if you want. But at the same time, somebody that just works out and barely half-asses that, and they half-ass that workout, not even barely, um, you don't need 500. Yeah, and also with the ester itself, um, I've probably had not my best blood work, but I'd say surprisingly good blood work with Prope, and having it uncapped, showing it's like nearly 3,000 nanograms per deciliter on 300 milligrams a week. I mean, one would argue that maybe I should just be using Prope. Maybe I respond way better to Prope than I do, definitely due to enanthate, because enanthate, the same amount of enanthate that I was taking compared to the cypionate now, um, sorry, enanthate keeps me at like 700, give or take. Cypionate, 850, 900 nanograms per deciliter. So that's good. Um, my SHBG has improved, which goes to where people were making fun of my choices in supplements. I think that because even using a DHT like Anavar, which lowers some, can't talk, sex hormone binding globulin, using the testosterone that I've been using, I think actually helped with getting my SHBG somewhat to a normal spot. Not too high, not too low. It's within reference. That's good. You want to make sure everything's in balance. So yeah, 500 the cutoff for me. 500 milligrams a week total, and that means if I'm on test, if I'm on mint, if I'm on Anavar, if I'm on Anadrol, um, 500 milligrams. Total androgens for me weekly is my cutoff. I will do 6, um, maybe, depending on what I'm doing, how I'm doing it. And that's pretty much it. Um, but a lot of guys that aren't competitive in any sense of the word don't need 500 milligrams to test. Um, I'd say 250 at most, and then like learning how to control the levels without having something to help with metabolism, such as diindol methane or calcium D-glucarate. That for a first cycle would actually be pretty good. Um, and also, they would know what to expect. And also, because everyone has this like innate want and need to cut all the time, but then they want to look big, but then like they want to be cut, but then they want to look big. And it's like, you can have both, but focus on one first, get to a point to where it makes sense to bring in the other, and then you can merge them. You can figure it out, and that's pretty much what I'm doing. I was looking at NPC's website for men's physique and classic physique, and so basically for men's physique, there isn't really a weight cap. It's just basically by height. So it's like 5'7" and up. If you're over 5'8", you go to the next one. If you're over 5'8", if you're over 5'7", you go to 5'8". If you're over 5'8", you go to the next one. So I'm 5'9", roughly. So that's actually not a bad idea. Um, I'll have on board shorts that'll be a little tight because I'm going to be trying to get those quads in and the calves. Also, hopefully I don't get too muscular to where they say, this dude needs to be in classic. But I'm also thinking about doing classic as well. So I think that, honestly, I feel like if classic were a thing when I first started competing as a natural, I probably wouldn't have gotten enhanced until it got to the point where physically I needed to be on TRT anyway. If classic were a thing when I was 23, 22, 23, when I started competing, I'd probably have done classic and would have done a little better because, they're not looking for you to be freaky. They're looking for you to be lean, which could have been one of my things. I remember one of the judges telling me at one point, he had nice classic lines, classic balance. He kept saying classic, and I was like, ah. So that's where I'm kind of like, yeah, I need to do classic. Um, will I get trashed? Good chance of that. If it's in a master's class, no. As I've seen the masters around here, a lot of people would like to venture and be like, well, your legs aren't going to be competitive. Like, yeah, they will. And also, I'm 47. Once again, I've seen guys my age and older that do the shows. I feel like I can compete with them. I know I can compete with them. Um, some people may say it's unfair because I don't look like them. Who cares? Um, Guess what? Because they're on stuff too. It's an even playing field, baby. Um, I can be an old guy and compete with the old guys. Fine. I remember there used to be an emphasis a lot on masters classes. Um, there was a masters. I remember when the Masters Olympia was still a thing, and there was a guy who was really big. Like he looked like he could have taken Open Olympia without even trying. He was just that big. Sadly enough, he passed away like relatively like as soon as he was in, he was out. Kind of like he passed away like, and it was just like whoa. I mean, he was blasting grams. He had to have been as big and as crazy, like ripped and dry he was. It was a matter of time. And at that time, no one was really thinking about that sort of thing. But now it's different. A lot of guys don't do tons of stuff. Like James English doesn't do tons of stuff. More Plates, More Dates has videos talking about like his physique's insane and like the little bit of test he does. And this is how it always turns out. When people talk about enhanced lifters, regardless of whether it's an influencer, it's a guy that just happens to work out, but he gets grouped into the influencer thing um, because, you know, it just happens. Ooh, got a follower. What's up? Sig Jojo. How you doing? Um, just in time. It's getting close for me to run out of here. Um, as I've been talking, I need the to wet the whistle. Yeah, basically, you know, the more I feel like the more athletes that we get out there that are open about being enhanced, the problem isn't so much that people are grateful that they're, you know, the idea you would think would be, oh, I mean, he's honest, he's on test, he's on trend, he's on whatever. Like, I give him credit. He's being upfront. You know what I mean? And then it's like the same people that kind of just like assume automatically, even if they're right, and they're like, oh, that guy's got to be on something. But they're like snippy and judgmental about it. But then if the guy says, yeah, I am, and then he says, this is exactly what I take, those same people are like, they're not satiated. They're not satisfied with just knowing that you said, yes, I'm enhanced. They're like really digging, like, no, he's got to be taking a whole bunch of other stuff. He had to be taking stuff this whole time. He had to be taking like grams of shit. He's gonna be doing this and that because that's what the pros do. And I hate that excuse. That's what the pros do. I'm not a pro. Stop it. I don't care what the pros take. I don't. I'm not in danger of becoming a pro. I'm not to say that it's dangerous, but I mean, think about it. How many have passed away in the past year or two? Anyway, my thing is, it's going to be to a point where a lot more people start to open up and actually say, I don't care what you think, me, I don't care what you think. This is what I do. This is how I do it. You don't have to you don't have to apply it. Whatever. Somebody could think I've been taking trend since I was 7. I didn't know what the fuck trend was when I was a 7. I was watching Star Blazers, Matt Saturday morning cartoons. I didn't care about that stuff. Wasn't even lifting weights. Wasn't even exercising for that matter. I didn't even start watching pro wrestling until I was like 8. So, yeah, just looking there. Something about being honest. Yeah. See, I don't play up to younger people. Honestly, I like a more mature crowd. Like, if I'm talking to somebody who was where I was at 25, doctors are turning their backs on them, and they're just like, I don't have any other alternative. I can give them advice because I was there. Um, I'm more looking at like the mature crowd that's like, I want to enhance. If they want to enhance their physique, that's fine. I'm good with that. I just want the precedent of you need. I just don't want the forum speak of 500 tests and shut the fuck up, or 300 DECA and shut the fuck up, like D-ball only and shut the fuck up. I don't want that stigma to continue. I want the anabolic window to die. I want the whole 19 Noras do whatever to you to die because it's only nandrolone because all the other ones are heavily modified and their activity changes because they're modified. And I mean, I want all that to die, really. All the stuff that I had to like find the hard truth on coming up myself, I want to go away. And yeah, yeah, I think that's the thing with like as much as I kind of want to use TikTok, it's definitely there's too many younger kids looking at that sort of thing, and I don't want younger kids looking at what I do and say, trust alone, I got to find that. No, you don't. This is not for you. Um, trend shouldn't be a meme. None of this should be. This should be for serious adult consideration. And I am, most of the time, a serious adult. So I'm not really doing this to say, oh, hey, you know, I don't care, kids, come on in. No, I'm not going to talk about it. Sometimes, even on Discord servers, if a kid is asking questions, especially, I can see them coming a mile away because they're worried about how tall they are. They're more concerned with getting girls. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not telling you anything. You don't, you don't need to know. You should just, like, I don't know, figure it out on your own. And that's just me. I, yeah, stay away. I try not, I try to dissuade a younger crowd from my content because it's not for them. Maybe I'll do a video where I can be like Blues Cruise or whatever. Blues Clues, whatever. Nah, I'm joking. But hey, it's been fun. I had a lot of people on for a little bit. Had a little bit of people on for a lot of it. um, got some conversations in with some good friends. That's who all of you are. Um, Thank you for the follows. Thank you for listening to me yap about training. A little bit of a different conversation. It may have ended in enhanced talk, but I mean it has its place, I guess. Um, Maybe we'll talk a little bit about more natural athletes and stuff like that, as far as like, you know, do they need extra this, that, and the third? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I was natural to a certain point, regardless of what anyone wants to think. But you know, who knows more about being natural than someone who struggled as a natural? So it's like if someone were broke and then they're suddenly rich, it's not that they don't know how to be broke. It's just that they were at one point, they're just not anymore. The uncanny valley. Yeah. There, that is a thing too, because it's kind of like I think naturally, if I stayed natural, I would just be I'd just be thick. I probably would never really get lean. Um, the leanest I got natural, I did place third in the New Hampshire Granite Cup NPC show, and then the second time I did that show, I placed fifth, mostly because I was getting over a fever prior to that. I shouldn't have done the show, but I did anyway because I mean I already spent the money. But other than that, just keeping it healthy now and see what brings us to the next season, um, if there is one, because I've been looking, see what happens. Um, but I tip my Starbucks cup to you guys. Thank you for sticking around, listening. Hope we've learned something. Um, I don't feel like I'm the teacher. I feel like I'm having a conversation with friends, and we're learning new things every day. And until next Friday, talk to you soon.